I'm Sara and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet the Sherbert Summer Sack Hat. Now we called it Sherbert because of the beautiful colors that remind us of eating sherbet in the summer. We call it a sack hat because it kind of looks like a sack. And this pattern now has 5 sizes included. There's a baby that is 14 inches. There's a toddler size that is 16 inches. There's a child size that is 18 inches. A youth size that is 20 inches. And then the adult size, which is 22 inches. And so you can adjust the band to whatever inch that you need. Also, you can add as many repeats as needed for the size that you're making. But don't worry, I'll go over all of this as we go along in the pattern. Also, and as always, you can find that blog link with all this information and pictures down in the notes underneath this video. To make a Sherbert sack hat, you're going to need anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces of yarn. And that is if you're going to make the pom-poms as well. All right, now these are made all out of Red Heart Super Saver. This is just that orchid color. We have a variegated, we have an ombre, and we have a striping yarn. So any color will work for this hat. And for our demonstration today, we're going to be using just a solid blue. I do recommend that you use an acrylic or a wool or a yarn that is going to hold its shape, but also be nice and stretchy. Because remember, even though this is a 22-inch hat, it'll fit up to a 26-inch head because it's very stretchy. And that's kind of the point with the summer hat, because you want it to be stretchy and see those holes and not be quite so hot. When you live up here in Colorado, a summer hat is a must for cool evenings or if you just want to go up into the mountains. So you need anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn in your favorite colors. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave in your ends, and you'll need your scissors. Now, you can make your pom-poms, if you want to, out of the same color yarn, or you can use ready-made pom-poms of your choice, and there are lots of different ones out there, or you can make some faux fur ones also. That is up to you. Now, at the end of this video, I will show you how I make these simple little pom-poms that I add, and it's a really simple method that I use for that, and that'll be at the end of the video. All right, so pick out your yarns, and we'll get started. We'll be starting with the band of the hat first, and then we'll work our way up and then close up the top of our hat, and then make our pom-poms and add those. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 4 chains. We're going to stitch a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. We don't count the loop, so there's 1, 2. We'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both loops, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in those 2 chains. This will give us 3 single crochets, chain 1, and turn. And now we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in these 3, working in the back loops only. The loops on this side are your front loops. The loops on this side are your back loops. So we'll go in that first one because our chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We'll go in that back loop and stitch a single crochet in each of those 3 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. And so what you'll do is you'll continue to repeat stitching 1 single crochet in each of those 3 single crochets, working in the back loops only, for the size needed for the size hat that you're making. All right, so if you're making the baby size, you're going to need to repeat this for 40 more rows. If you're making the toddler size, you'll need to repeat this for 46 more rows. If you're making it for the child size, you'll need to repeat for 52 more rows. If you're making the youth size, you'll need to repeat this for 58 more rows. And if you're working the adult size, you'll need to repeat this for 73 more rows. And what you'll repeat is 1 single crochet in each of those 3 single crochets, working in the back loops only, chain 1 and turn, and repeat it as many times as needed for the size hat that you are making. I'm making the baby size for our demonstration, so I'm going to repeat for 40 more rows. I've stitched the amount of rows that I need for the size hat that I'm making. And of course, I told you I'm making the baby size, and so I have a total of 42 rows. I'm going to place the ends together. Do not twist this circle. And we're going to stitch through both sides, and we're going to stitch 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. And so now I've formed the band of my hat, and I'm going to chain 1. Now the remaining part of this pattern is done exactly the same for all sizes. The only difference is the amount of stitches that you'll have around. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch along the top edge of our band, and we're going to be stitching 1 half double crochet in the end of each of our rows. You'll yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. You'll place a half double crochet at the end of the rows, and you'll find those ends. We have all the ridges, and you'll place one in between the ridges and one in the top of the ridges. And you want to try to go between those stitches and not in the holes. So here's my ridge. I'm stitching in the last stitch of the ridge, and then here is in between the ridges in the indentation, and so I'm going to go in the side of that last stitch and stitch a half double crochet. And what happens by stitching 1 half double crochet in the end of each row, the amount of rows you have will be the amount of stitches you have for this row. I stitched 2 rows, and then I stitched an additional 40, so I have 42 rows for my baby size. So I'm going to have 42 half double crochets around. And yours will be the same. The amount of rows that you stitched is the amount of half double crochets, because we're stitching 1 half double crochet in the end of each row. I have stitched 1 half double crochet in the side of each of my rows. Here's my last half double crochet, and I'm going to join to that first half double crochet with a slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and slip stitch in the next. chain 3. Skip the next 2 stitches and slip stitch in the next. And again, we're going to be doing this for all sizes. Chain 3, skip 2 and slip stitch in the next. Chain 3, skip 2 and slip stitch in the next. And we'll repeat this working all the way around our hat for all sizes. So I have repeated this all the way around. Slip stitch, skip 2, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, skip 2, slip stitch in the next, all the way around. And I'm going to join to that first slip stitch with a slip stitch. I'm going to slip stitch in this first chain 3 space and chain 3. I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets in this chain 3 space. Our chain 3 counted as 1, and I stitched 2 more, so I have 3 double crochets. Now I'm going to move to the next chain 3 space and stitch 3 double crochets. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. That's our double crochet. And what we're going to do is in each of the chain 3 spaces, we're going to stitch 3 double crochets. And so what we're doing is we're stitching 3 double crochets in each of the chain 3 spaces all the way around our hat. And again, this is for all sizes. I have stitched 3 double crochets in each of my chain 3s. Here's my last one. I'm going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then double crochet in that same stitch. And so what we've done is we've chained 4, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1, and then we double crocheted in that same stitch, so we stitched a V-stitch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the center double crochet of those 3 and stitch a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then we'll move to the next set of 3 double crochets and we'll stitch a V-stitch in the top of that center double crochet. And so this is our repeat. V-stitch or double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch in the center double crochet of those 3 of each group. And we'll repeat this working all the way around and join back to the chain 3. I completed this row stitching a V-stitch or double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the center double crochet of each of our 3 double crochet groups. I joined to the chain 3. Remember we chained 4 to begin with, but we joined to just the chain 3. And now we're going to slip stitch in that chain 1 space and chain 3. And what we're going to do for this row is we're going to go in the chain 1 space and slip stitch and chain 3. Go to the next chain 1 space and slip stitch and chain 3. we'll go to the next chain 1 space, slip stitch, and chain 3. So now we're making chain 3s like we did down here, only we're placing them in the chain 1 spaces of our V stitches. So I have completed that row, stitching a slip stitch, chain 3 in each of my chain 1 spaces of my V stitches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 45, row 46, and row 47, which is our 3 double crochets in the chain 3 loops, our V stitches, and then the chain 3 loops. For the baby size, you're going to repeat this one more time. For the child and toddler sizes, you're going to repeat it 2 more times. And for the youth to adult, you're going to repeat it 3 more times. Now, not everyone has the same length head, so maybe your baby has a little bit longer head. You can repeat it as many times as needed. But we are going to be adding 2 more rows when we finish our repeats, so keep that in mind when you're adding more rows. Alright, so just to repeat, we're going to repeat row 45, 46, and 47 one more time for the baby. For the toddler and child, we're going to repeat it 2 more times. And for the adult sizes and the youth size, we're going to repeat it 3 more times. So once you have done the amount of repeats needed for the hat size that you're making, you're going to end on a row of the chain 3 loops. And so we're going to go ahead and slip stitch in that chain 3 loop and do another row of our 3 double crochets in each of those chain 3 loops. Just like we did down here and down here. 3 double crochets in each of those chain 3 loops, working all the way around our hat. So now the last row we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1/2 double crochet in each of the double crochets around, and that's going to give us a row in order to stitch them together to form the top of our hat. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. 1/2 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. I have stitched that last row, which is 1/2 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. I'm going to join to that first half double crochet with a slip stitch, and I'm going to turn my hat wrong side out. Now you'll have to bring your yarn through because we're going to be stitching on the wrong side of our hat to close up the top of our hat. Now you want to lay your hat flat, and you want to have your loop where we start and finish over here. We're going to go in the first stitch on this side and the first stitch on this side and stitch a slip stitch. Now I find that the hat looks neater if I go on the outside stitch on this side, which is the front loop, and the outside stitch on this side, which is the back loop, to stitch my slip stitches. I think it makes a much nicer and neater appearance. And so I'll continue to do this all the way across the top of my hat. I have slip stitched closed the top of my hat. I'm going to cut my yarn, tie this off, and use my needle to weave in this end. And you want to make sure it's nice and secure because you don't want a hole in the top of the corner of your hat. Remember to always go through fibers and stitches and not the holes. Alrighty. Now my hat is finished, so I'll flip it over and see how that top seam looks. Let's pull out those corners a little bit. Alright, so the hat is finished, and you could wear it just like this for any of the sizes, but I think adding the little pom-poms make a nice touch. If you don't want to make pom-poms, you can always add a pre-made pom-pom. This one is a faux fur. This is a couple that I have on hand. It rolled off. You can always do that if you want to. There are lots of fun ways to do pom-poms. And I like to make them to match the hat. You can make them in other colors if you want to. But I'm going to show you how to make a really simple, fun pom-pom. Alright, so we're going to take a piece of yarn about 10 or 12 inches and cut that and lay it out. Now I'm going to take the yarn and I'm going to wrap it around my 4 fingers about 35 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, about 35 times. Now, if you want your pom-pom fuller, wrap it more times. If you want it not quite so full and you want it a little loose, wrap it less times. So I'm going to take those loops and I'm going to lay it across that piece of string I have laid out, or piece of yarn. And I'm going to tie a knot nice and tight. I'm going to tie 1, 2, 3 knots. All right, now I'm going to take my big scissors because I want to be able to cut the yarn, and I'm going to pop it into this bucket because I'm going to cut those loops. Oh, and if you have a yarn winder, of course, you can definitely use your own yarn winders. All right, now I'm going to push those forward, all those loops, and then I'm just going to try to cut them even. And that's what this container is for, to catch all those strings. All right, so I'm going to take it, I'm going to kind of shake it. Look at it, see if there's any that are sticking out crazy like, or maybe a loop right there I missed. Trim some of those so they don't look so crazy. There we go. Give it another good shake. And I think this pom-pom, oops, I missed a loop right there. Now this pom-pom is ready to go on my hat. All right, so I have these 2 strings. I'm going to go up inside my hat into this corner. I'm going to put my yarn or my hook through a stitch and not a hole and pull that 1 string through. All right, now I'm going to grab the other one and go across, going in a stitch and not a hole, and pull that one through. Now I'm going to gently turn this over. I'm going to grab those 2 strings, pull them up in that corner, and tie 1, 2, 3 knots. And then I have this other little knot that I do. I just kind of twirl it over with both of them. Shove that down into that corner and clip. That's how I make super simple and adorable pom-poms. So that is our Sherbert Summer Sack Hat in 5 sizes, and also the baby size fits the American Girl style dolls. So you can make a Dolly and Me hat for your little American girl.